So what are the kind of hot topics around the labor market right now? Well, let's see. We can talk Great Resignation. We can talk vaccine mandates. Unemployment numbers always a factor. Chris Burkhardt here, Placer Staffing this morning. We're going to go through a few of these things. Hey, Chris, good morning.
Hey, Chris. Hey, how you doing? Happy Thursday.
You as well. You as well. Hey, it's been a few weeks since we talked last. Let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the unemployment numbers and what we're kind of looking at in the job market today, Chris?
Well, Pete, claims went up a little bit, but I think there's some regional factors. I don't know if you've tried to buy a car lately. There's no cars on the lot. There's some pretty significant supply chain issues that, chips and things. So, that's got some folks on the unemployment sideline for a little bit. And then Hurricane Ida had a pretty big impact in Louisiana and the South. But overall, the trends over the last month have pandemics at a pandemic low. And I think this is the right statement. Companies really want to hire and not fire right now.
Yeah.
Companies are holding on to workers even as cases increase some. It's far from business as usual, but business is generally staying open and operating as best they can in this environment.
We are in a time now, Chris, that's being labeled by some the Great Resignation. So what can you share about what the labor market's doing? What can job seekers do to capitalize on some of the opportunities? And what should companies do to kind of seize on this opportunity as well?
Well, it's an interesting time. This year had 2 to 3 times the early retirements of other years.
Wow.
And you might just simply say that's related to the pandemic, and businesses will ultimately catch up. But it's interesting. 4 million people quit their jobs in July. The number of quits peaked in April. But, man, there's 11 million jobs available.
Yeah.
But what's really most interesting is that, believe it or not, the age that people quit are age 30 to 45. And there's a lot of reasons. Burnout. There's huge turnover in areas that were really busy and high demand events like COVID, like healthcare or other things. But it may just be a math problem. People didn't quit during the worst or the beginning of the pandemic, and now they're quitting.
Yeah. What about vaccine mandates? Obviously have become a big deal in the news of late due to these federal requirements. It's aimed, of course, at trying to get industries back to pre-COVID operations, as we've kind of referenced here. What can companies, Chris, expect to see from the move, and how best should the companies prepare to deal with that change?
Well, it's not an easy subject.
No.
The vaccine, it's raising questions about the balance between individual rights and community safeguards with COVID. So Biden has proposed a rule mandate that will require all employers with 100 or more workers to require them to be vaccinated or test them weekly. That's about 80 million people. And then there's about 17 million that are in health facilities or a couple of other industries that would be required. But it's not in place yet. It would be rolled out by OSHA, a federal agency. And, so we're seeing a lot of interesting trends. And I am not advocating for a couple of these trends, but they're things that we're watching closely. Job seekers are actually putting their vaccination status on their resume.
Wow.
For some, this is an advantage, but, man, what a polarizing topic.
Yeah.
I've been on your radio show for almost 2 years. I do run Placers, a staffing firm. But we're seeing a growing shift in organizations that are posting open roles online, asking for a vaccine, candidates that are vaccinated. And we're seeing so many organizations spend time to try and get clear on a very unclear vaccine landscape. But this is just a time to make sure your policy is right, and that there are exceptions. There are religious, there are health exemptions, and everybody's trying to balance, protecting people with, quite frankly, a lot of business risk.
It really is interesting. I read a story out of New York the other day, just to let everyone know who didn't see this, that the state there is mandating vaccine or testing for healthcare workers. And a couple of them sued of the workers, saying there's no religious exemption in here, to which the state then filed a brief with court saying, you know what, though, we don't mandate or include religious exemptions in other vaccines that we mandate you get. So in reality, they're saying this is the way it should be. So I'm just putting that out there. It's just, as we enter this fourth quarter, Chris, very interesting, very curious, and maybe as we get closer to the end of the year, very telling times, you know?
Well, I think a lot of businesses are waiting for a federal rollout. But with that saying, we live in interesting times, that may be an understatement. I think that there's just so much potential challenge to this, and it's really it's a spicy topic because 50% of the people feel one way and 50% feel the other. But it's very difficult on businesses, and we're just trying to help people make sure they have the right policies and programs in place for their existing people. And certainly, as there isn't a company I know that doesn't need to attract more talent.
If you're listening to us now and you are searching for or know someone who is searching for their next opportunity, myplacers.com is just a great site to check out, especially if you're listening to us here in Delaware. But really, regardless, myplacers.com would be an excellent stop. Chris Burkhardt, Placer Staffing. Chris, we will talk again soon, sir.
Thanks, Pete. Talk to you soon.
Okay.